Hey everyone, it's Dara. I'm a gender therapist in Colorado, and I wanted to make a video today because it is January 3rd. It is just after New Year's, and I have a feeling that there's a few people out there who have decided that for the new year they want to go to counseling. I mean, it's one of those things that just pops up. Specifically, there might be folks who are wanting to explore their gender identity or start their transition, things like that. I did receive an email from someone wondering how do you approach a new therapist? What's the first thing you do, when it comes to calling them or emailing them or setting up your appointment? What do you say to get that ball rolling? So I'm going to talk about that today. And I'm going to specifically highlight what it means to do this for those of you who are gender questioning. Let's say you want to transition, or if you have already done all of that and you just want to find a therapist. So the first thing that's important to do is when you do your research about who it is you want to see, to go to see for therapy. And I've made a couple of videos that can help you with this, which I will link in the notes. And one has to do with how to find a gender therapist, and the other one has to do with what should you talk about in your first session with a potential therapist. So I'm not going to get into the details about that because I want you to watch those videos for those parts. But the thing that I need you to keep in mind as you get ready to contact a therapist is this therapist knowledgeable when it comes to working with trans clients or not? And you can gather your clues by obviously seeing if they have a website that you can look on Psychology Today to see if they have a profile on there, and then just kind of explore those different resources to see if they mention they do work with trans clients, and listen and look for what is their level of expertise. So let's say that based on your research, you find somebody and you're like, wow, this person really knows what they're talking about. Then when it's time to contact them, you pretty much can just jump right in. You can use terminology that's comfortable to you. You can say, hey, I'm FTM. Hey, I'm assigned male at birth, but I'm not really sure if that truly is my gender. Hey, I'm non-binary. You can just go ahead and don't worry about the therapist not knowing what you're talking about or saying. They already know. So just be normal, be relaxed, just let them know what's up and let them know that you're looking to be able to explore maybe starting counseling with them. So the other part is that if you are either unsure or you're like, ooh, I don't think this person maybe specializes or has worked with trans clients, then that's going to require a little bit more effort in terms of finessing your message. So the reason I know a lot of you might end up having to go to a therapist who's not a gender therapist is because you live in an area in which there are no gender therapists. And sadly, that is still very true, and hopefully that'll change in the future, but for now, it's reality. So as long as you find a therapist who is trans-friendly, for those of you who are struggling to find a gender therapist, that's a great place to start. And so when you contact that person, you probably will need to kind of take a step back and say, hey, here's the situation, and you explain that you're either gender questioning or that you want to transition, and you're wondering, is this something that do you work with clients who are struggling with this or who want to explore this? Start with that. Don't get into too many details. A lot of times therapists, we check our messages, and the shorter they are, the better. Just get to the point as quick as you can, but certainly just be direct. You don't have to try to think of the right way to be able to explain everything going on. Just say, hey, this is what's going on, and I want to know, do you work with clientele who are facing this, who are exploring this, who are challenged with this? Wait and see what they say back. If they say they don't, hopefully ask them if they can send you to somebody else. If they say they do, then take it to the next step. And the video that I made where I say what should you talk about in your first session with a therapist goes into details about how you can continue to ask them questions to see what is their actual level of awareness and knowledge when it comes to working with trans clients. So When it comes to like, should you call them, should you email them, excuse me, look and see what it is that therapist has available in terms of ways to contact them. That should be listed on their website, or it should be listed on their Psychology Today profile. I know that a lot of people nowadays don't use the phone, like the actual telephone, and leave a message and get a message back. Some people do though. So if that's the way that this therapist rolls, then you'll need to leave them a message and let them know when you're available for them to call you back. I myself way prefer email, and I also prefer text message. In fact, on my voicemail message, I tell people, please go ahead and just text me or send me an email, because more than likely me giving you a phone call back is going to either not happen, or it'll take a really long time for me to get back to you. So just look and see what is that therapist's preference, and if it matches yours, if you're like, great, I would love to text this new therapist, or I'd love to send an email, then just go ahead and do that. And then, if you then make it to the next step and the therapist says, yes, I do work with trans clients, or I do work with gender questioning clients, or sure, I do have availability. That's one thing that you might want to check in sometimes to say, hey, I was wondering if you have any spots open for new clients. But if you forget to say that, your therapist, they'll let you know if that's the case. They'll let you know if they have a waiting list. They'll let you know if they have other therapists in the area that they can refer you to. So something else to keep in mind is that the WPATH standards of care differentiate between counseling and then going in for an assessment. The assessment has to do with if you need a therapist to write you a letter for hormone therapy or for surgeries. And then there's counseling. So you don't have to go in for counseling if that's not what you feel like you need, and all you need is a letter from a therapist to help you get hormone therapy and surgeries. So if you're writing to a therapist who, especially if you can tell they already work with trans clients, let them know, go ahead and let them know specifically, hey, I'm actually just looking for a letter. Do you do these types of assessments? And then in your next conversation, you can ask, how much does it cost? How many times do we have to visit? That sort of thing. If you're interested in counseling because you're exploring your gender, then just ask about that. If you feel like you might want a combination of both, let's say I do want a letter for hormone therapy, but I'd also like to come in for counseling too, because I'm having challenges coming out, or I'm having challenges with my partner, then let them know that you're looking for both of those too. So that's something else you can also include in your message, and that therapist will be able to then quickly gather what it is that you need from them and then let you know. Generally, after that, you move into the stage of figuring out what your schedules look like. When is it that they have spots open? When can you come in? If it's important to you to find out ahead of time how much it costs for therapy, or if they take your insurance, ask that ahead of time, because it would be very sad if you went in and met this therapist and you really like them and then it turns out you can't afford to see them. So a lot of times I really appreciate it when somebody just right up front asks me if I take their insurance or what my rates are, because then if it turns out they can't see me, I can either send them to a different therapist in the area, or I have an intern who will be starting with me this month who I can potentially hook them up with my intern who has a much lower rate. Okay, so that's my advice about what you can do if you are ready to begin the new year, seeing a counselor, getting some of this stuff done. If you have any more questions about this, feel free to put them in the comments. And I am excited to be with you once again. Here's 2018. Looking forward to continuing to share resources with you and to be here as a support. And who knows, I kind of know what might be going on this year, but I always, on the other hand, we never know what's going to go on this year. So I'll update you later about what some of my thoughts are about the projects I'll be working on. But until then, I'll be back later with more advice videos coming up soon. Thanks.